What if the secret to success wasn't just talent or hard work, but unshakable confidence? Welcome to Grasp Confidence, the podcast where visionary thought leaders, speakers, and entrepreneurs unlock the mindset and strategies for lasting success. I'm your host, LaFon Gooch, CEO, two-time best-selling author, and international TEDx speaker, and I can't wait to help you step into the most powerful version of yourself. Let's dive in. Motivation feels good, but it doesn't last. It's a spark, a rush, a moment, and then life happens. Transformation, on the other hand, is different. Transformation changes how you think, how you lead, and how you show up. Not just today, but for a lifetime. And that's what we're diving into on today's episode. Because if motivation alone were enough, we'd all already be living our best lives. But real change doesn't come from inspiration that fades. It comes from identity shifts, disciplined action, and doing the inner work that most people avoid. And for this conversation, I'm joined by two people who don't just talk about transformation, they live it. Dr. Grant Van Ulbrich, Doctor of Personal Change and Transformation, CEO of Scared So What, TEDx speaker, author, and podcast host, joining us from London, England, and Eric Pfeiffer, three-time author, founder of Empower Coaching, that's MPWR Coaching, podcast host, and leadership expert based in San Diego, California. 3 time zones, 1 mission to help you stop chasing motivation and start creating real lasting transformation. Gentlemen, let's go. Welcome to the show.
Hey there. Welcome. It's good to see you. Hey, Eric.
Hi.
Well,
Good
what
to be
an
with you, Tara.
what an exciting topic, right? I mean, we hear this term. You guys, we're all speakers, right? We're all
Mhm.
professional speakers and coaches. We hear the term motivational speaker. We hear the term inspiration. But when I think of those words, I think of seconds. If we're lucky, right?
Yeah.
I would love to hear it from you guys. And I'll kind of go, we have a panel discussion today. I'll kind of go top to bottom. Eric, you recently did, and by the way, your podcast is amazing. You recently did a really impressive podcast talking about the difference between motivation and inspiration and transformation. I would love to hear a little bit about your perspective on this topic.
Absolutely. Well, there's a phrase that I'm borrowing from somebody much smarter than myself, where they say that it's inspiration plus perspiration that leads to transformation. And I think as a young leader myself, back in my 20s and early 30s, I was consuming every possible book and resource out there. This is days before podcasts, so I'm dating myself. But I was inspired and I was encouraged and I wanted to try all the things I was learning about, but didn't quite know how to put a lot of the ideas I was hearing about into practice. And it was actually years after that I ended up connecting with a mentor and had spent 13 years with this mentor. And he was the one that helped me to translate from the kind of academic, theoretical, ideological understanding of leadership into the nuts and bolts, boots on the ground, in the trenches. Like, how do we do this view of leadership? And I'll tell you what the biggest difference was. He helped me to understand the importance of developing regular rhythms, routines, what I call predictable patterns. What I don't like the word discipline, but they are simple disciplines that help us to begin to practice these great ideas, because we all know that as human beings, the way we grow is to stumble and fumble and bumble our way into new skills or abilities or new lifestyles or new mindsets. A weekend away at a retreat is really helpful. But if there's no way to now put into practice on a regular basis what we've learned at that retreat, change normally doesn't happen. And so that would be the one thing I would put my finger on for your listeners is To be inspired is awesome. To be motivated is awesome. To have new ideas is awesome. I think they're great. We all espouse, ideas that people get hopped up on. However, if we don't know how to connect those great ideas to simple practices that can actually lead to that change, a little bit of perspiration is required. Then what we feel is we feel let down. We feel disillusioned. We feel frustrated. That author let me down. That speaker let me down. That idea let me down. And I often say to people, I don't know. I think those ideas were great. I just think we didn't know how to actually integrate them into our daily lives.
Oh, wow. That's powerful. Grant, I would love to hear from you. What are your thoughts?
I'm loving what Eric's saying because, that last part just landed it for me. We don't know how to integrate it into our lives. And that's where the crust of my work comes in. And Eric, you're so spot on. But usually when I do a keynote speech or when I'm talking to a group of CEOs or leadership, I ask 2 questions. Raise your hand if you've ever been taught how to achieve transformation in your business.
Wow.
Do you think any hand goes up?
Yeah, that's
They all kind of look at each other and they're like, yeah, no. But you're the CEO or you're the C-suite. I said, great, that's fine. Look at each other. No hands went up, right? Here's my next question. Raise your hand if you've ever been taught how to manage personal change for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
No hand goes up. But yet the board just says that you're all leaders of organizations and companies and your job is to transform business. Now, let me ask you this. What's the difference between change and transformation? And then I sit back and I just kind of like, okay, my ears just get full of any kind of an explanation that they could possibly share. And I said, guys and gals, let's just go ahead and make this a little smaller. Let's look at it this way. To change means you can always go back. To transform means you can only go forward.
Ooh,
and if you want to visualize this, think of a little caterpillar. So a caterpillar does not change to become a better caterpillar. It goes into a cocoon, which is chaos, transitioning from complete emotional transformation, right? And it transforms into something new. It can't go back. And if you understand that very small visual, then you also can understand how at organizations, we transactionally tell people to change. We think we've done the great communication. The C-suite is all patting themselves in the back. We did it. It's going to happen, right? But we fail to remember that you need the people to actually execute your change. And they're just going to go right back to their comfort zones until somebody gets in their face and forces them. So to change means we can always go back. To achieve transformation, you can only go forward.
That was worth the price of admission right there, Grant.
Yeah, that is so good. And, it's December when we're recording this, right?
Mm-hmm.
People are right now, they're thinking about the New Year's resolutions.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, how many times have we made it a New Year's resolution to lose 20 pounds or whatever? And then we change and we gain it all back because
we go right back.
We get right back because we haven't actually transformed.
Yeah. Well, mentally, we're not there yet.
Yeah, mentally, we're not there yet. So what I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong, is actually it's an embodiment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's talk about that a little bit, right? Because we're talking about something totally different. And I love your analogy, Grant, of going into a keynote speech and saying, when is the last time we've talked about actual transformation? That's so powerful.
Eric, they're the buzzwords everywhere, right?
Everywhere.
You hear it everywhere, but ask them if they actually know what it means.
Eric, what does it mean? What does it mean? What does it mean to transform?
Oh, that is such a good question. I mean, honestly, everything in me wants to just regurgitate what Grant just said.
I know, it's so good, right?
Well, I love metaphors, analogies, pictures. I think we as human beings learn really well when we have a picture. So here's the thing about, for me, if I could put one little thing to transformation, is I think transformation begins with having a clear sense of the new identity, the new me that I want to become, the new team that I want to have, the new organization that I want to be a part of or lead, right? So we have to have a clear vision for that new sense of identity. And I say identity because most people think first and foremost of behavioral change. What are the behaviors we want to change? And I do think behavioral change is critical. But I think very often we don't have a clear vision in mind of who we want to be, because who we are is what's going to determine how we operate on the most hand, right? And so people gain weight back because they haven't transformed their identity, their sense of who they are, right? They've only transformed a few behaviors. But then what happens is their old identity kicks back in very quickly because it's a difficult thing to transform. And so they go back to, well, I've always been this way. This is what it's always been like. This is what I've always done. This is how I've always, handled my last hour of the evening snacking on junk food because I'm hungry and sad and depressed or lonely or whatever it is.
Mhm.
And so I think having a really clear vision of the new person that we want to become, and then partnering that with the appropriate behavioral changes,
Mhm.
right? Like I said before, these predictable patterns, routines, disciplines, rhythms that help us begin what I say to cultivate that new identity. By the way, this is parenting 101. The way that we parent our kids is, what do we say? If we say to them, you always do this, you're never this, then what we're doing is we're speaking over them, your identity. So no matter how many behavioral changes that child makes in their brain, they've already bought into the idea that this is who I am always going to be. Versus if you say to a child, you will learn this, you will figure this out, you will get this breakthrough, you can be better at math, you can be better at language arts or writing an essay or playing the violin, right? So now we're talking about kind of a growth mindset. But we have to cast that vision over the people around us of who they're becoming, right? Because that sets up that future. And then what we do is we provide them, or for ourselves, we need these predictable patterns that help us begin to cultivate that new identity. I often say to leaders who are aspiring to higher positions within an organization, I said, if you're waiting to get that title before you start acting like
Yeah.
you have that title, in terms of what does it mean to be a CEO? How does a CEO operate and behave? What are the attitudes, the behaviors, right? But before that, what does it mean for you to be a CEO? What does that mean for you as a human being? And if you partner the identity with the predictable pattern, what happens is you begin to set a course or some tracks to help us begin to become, as Grant so wonderfully said, to metamorphosize, I think that's the right word, from the caterpillar that we are today into the butterfly that we want to be tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you are speaking my
Powerful, right?
language. It's so powerful. And
Yeah.
there's a quote I live by. I referenced the quote in my TEDx talk. You can't be what you can't see. It's by Marion Wright Edelman. It's so powerful. And you're talking about using visualization. Sight is like an anchor. And the way I kind of describe it is, if you already have gratitude for the person you are becoming, you'll become that person that much quicker, right? Because you feel it. There's an emotion tied to it. Grant, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I absolutely believe it's true. You have to have gratitude for who you are and what you're contributing to the world. But there's a mix of all three of these elements. There's personal change that has to come into play, and there's leadership. Which leadership style do you believe in, or do you identify with? That has to come into play. But then there's also permission within that gratitude. I remember years ago, I had a hotel director. A hotel director on a ship is the senior officer in charge of the whole ship, everything the guest sees. Then you have the captain who's in charge of the vessel and the safety. But I remember a hotel director who I reported to, and he said, Grant, if you aspire to be a hotel director one day, don't wait for permission. Be it now. Be it right now today.
Yeah.
Demonstrate the leadership skills. Go do it. Sign up for it. Volunteer for it. Actually, come take some of my duties. Show up that you actually want to be here. And it's giving yourself that permission. And that's the gratitude you're talking about, to say, I am worthy. I can do this. And I am thankful for the opportunities that have been given. But there's two underlying factors here. There's one is the personal change element. None of us have been taught how to manage change for ourselves. And that's a crime.
Yeah.
We don't teach it in school. We don't teach it in church or religious settings. We don't teach it in family settings. We don't teach it in universities or in work. And I find it shocking that this little boy from Kansas, now 55 years old, was the one to challenge the academics to say, well, wait a minute. Where's the model for me and Eric and Tara and everybody listening? And that just didn't exist. So what we have is a society, a global society today of, if I'm stressing out about something and I go to either one of you and I dump my heart and my feelings out to you, sometimes the best thing that you can say is, don't worry about it. You'll be fine. It'll be okay. Sounds familiar. Moms and dads say this all the time. Just get on with it. You know, if you want something to be worried about, I'll give you something to be worried about. Sometimes the fathers would say that. But 2 seconds later, the psychology, your brain kicks back in and says, yeah, that's not working for me. What am I supposed to do?
Mhm.
And we haven't been given that what to do. And we actually can manage change for ourselves now. And that's through what Scared So What is designed to do. But to the point what Eric is talking about on leadership, part of my PhD, I was so frustrated as well. So I created the personal change model in my master's, but in the leadership, in the doctorate, I wanted to find out, well, what's the leadership foundation that actually supports this? And why is this not evidently present within business? So you could see all the different hierarchical types and structures of leadership. Do I want to be a relational leader? Do I want to be an emotional leader? Do I want to be this or that, etc.? But I asked again my professors, what are the foundations? What are the leadership foundations that we all should be learning from? And that surrounds around transactional leadership and transformational leadership.
Ooh, transactional versus transformational. That is good.
Yeah, we spend 76% of our lives in transactional. And all of a sudden, this should become very clear because it's about you. Your day is about you. Everything is about you. And when you're at work or if with your family, wherever you are, and someone comes and interrupts your moment and they say, what do you think I should do? It is so easy for you to tell them. That is a transactional leader. But what you fail to realize is you didn't give an opportunity for creativity and you didn't transfer ownership. In essence, they can go do what you said and they can come right back and said it didn't work. And it's your fault, not theirs. It's harder to shift over into transformational, like Eric was talking about earlier. That's harder to do because you have to make a conscious effort of, wait a minute, I'm the leader, but this isn't about me. This needs to be about them and their development opportunity. So I need to shift into coaching action. What do you think you could do? How would you do that? What do you need from me? What would happen if you did that for safety, etc.? Right? You want them to come up with the ideation. You want them to come up, and that coaching is the transfer of ownership. So that's the foundation. Which do you live within? Then you can add on any type of hierarchical structure of leadership. We don't teach this in school, and we should be. And this is where you need Eric and I to come and actually help you.
That's right.
little
That's right.
hit there, Eric. There we go.
And you said how much of our lives are spent in this transactional?
Yeah, psychologically, 76% of your life is lived in transactional, and you can see them now as you hear my voice.
Yeah.
You've all seen those types of leaders.
Yeah.
They're the bosses that tell you what to do. They take all the credit for everything that you do. They don't spend time with you. There's no development activity, and they don't care about your contribution to the ideas, etc. They're going to do it their way anyway. Transactional leadership, it's so easy to get stuck into that. And that relates into parenting as well. What Eric was just saying, let me tell you what to do, child, right? They're going to have the natural resistance because they haven't experienced it themselves. This is where personal change mixes in because personal change is about perception, how I see it, not how you see it and how you're telling me you see it, but how do I see it? So there's a blend.
Eric, you have a leadership operating system that you are famous for and known for. And I feel like your leadership operating system can really help leaders and individuals go from that transactional type of leader like Grant was talking about and go into that transformational leader. I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, I'll just springboard off of what Grant was sharing. I think, Grant, you and I are brothers from different mothers. Because what I hear and what you're sharing, Grant, is an experience of what I would call an injustice. That's the word I put to it. That I'm so familiar with. I spent so many years, my 20s and 30s especially, desperately wanting to be a better version of myself, wanting to be a better leader, constantly running into all kinds of challenges and my own personal failures. And not because I didn't want to grow, not because I didn't want to transform, but because I didn't know how.
Yeah.
And so, I think what you've said, Grant, which is we operate now, at least I'm familiar with, in the United States, but I know is true in many other parts of the world, is most people don't have a practical pathway for that personal transformation, team transformation, culture transformation.
Agreed.
And so through that process, I stumbled onto this metaphor of the operating system. I was reading an article on the genius of Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, and how, all of us every single day, I'll pull mine out. We have these smartphone devices, whichever brand you choose, is great. But the genius of these is, what we see are all the apps, the applications. And I'll think of those applications as representative of all the things that we're trying to accomplish every single day, whether it's in our personal lives, in the professional lives, in whatever area of life, finance, business, health, relationships, managing your schedule, on and on and on. And we love these devices because they give us access to these apps so that we can effectively navigate life more successfully. But the real genius of these devices is not the apps, but the operating system. What I'm going to put this in very simple terms because I'm not techie. The parental software that we don't see in these devices that actually governs the way the device runs all the apps.
Mm-hmm.
And so for many years, I kept feeling like I'm broken. I'm stuck. I don't know how to be fixed. I don't know how to transform into this better version, into this butterfly version of myself. And that's when I realized, like you were saying, Grant, we need this foundational understanding of what does it mean for me to be the best version of me, especially under pressure, because that's when life really tests us. What would it mean for my team to be the best version of itself, for my organization? Or let's expand, of our country, of our world to be the best version of itself would require that we have a practical pathway that would allow us to unlock more of our human potential. Because I think all people, when we unlock more of our potential, we are a better version of ourselves. We are more of an asset to the environment around us. We begin to mitigate against all of the stuff about our humanity that's so frustrating, that gets in the way, the dysfunctions, the toxicity, the old habits, the old mindsets. But we need some practical pathway that gives us a chance day over day to unlock more of our potential. And so I basically went on this journey of taking all of the best leadership principles and tools and ideas that I had spent decades combing through. And, I would keep, kind of a running tab of here are the ones that have been most impactful in terms of my own transformation. Mm-hmm. And then as I started working with leaders, decades ago, and sharing those, only what worked for me, with other leaders. And because I'm a pragmatist at heart, I want to know what works. And so when I began to see other leaders across various industries, across various levels, getting the same breakthroughs that I was experiencing in their own context, regardless of their background or, whatever unique qualities that they held personally, they were getting essentially the same breakthroughs that I was getting. And so I took all of these, distilled them down into a set of core leadership tools that are really meant to function as our operating system. Here are the prevailing attitudes and behaviors that if I operate in those, I am actually going to align myself more fully with how I'm designed to work, because all human beings are wonderfully unique and different, right? There's no two fingerprints that are the same in all of human history. Think about that for a second. That's unbelievable to think.
That is, isn't it?
It's a very, very small space for there to be that many billions and billions of unique fingerprints. And yet all human beings have enough similarities, right? And so when we understand the way humans are designed to operate, you give people a practical pathway to align themselves with their own design. Mm-hmm. That's what unlocks more of their own potential. It unlocks a team, an organization, whatever. It unlocks more of our potential so that we know how to get unstuck. We know how to move from caterpillar to butterfly. We know how to take our team that is in disarray and dysfunctional and disconnected and to help them begin to operate in a way that leads to greater connection, greater trust, a greater sense of we're now rowing in the same direction. And let's be honest, anything in life worth achieving, you're going to have to partner with other human beings.
Of course. Yeah.
And that's where the challenges largely come. And so if we can unlock those challenges, if we can empower everyone to feel like I get to now be a significant contributor to those partnerships, not only does it lead to people feeling more personally satisfied and fulfilled, but it also leads to a much greater expression of whatever it is that we're trying to achieve.
Ooh, so good. So
Right.
good. Grant, what is your take on that? I love what Eric said about of all the human history, we each have an individual fingerprint that is completely different than the next. And I do believe that we need other people to partner with because not one individual has all the answers. And we weren't created to live in silos. We were created to live in communities. And that's part of, what can make a really effective team so powerful is that community mindset, not a siloed mindset.
Yeah.
Grant, what are your thoughts on that?
I absolutely agree. And I think, it's empowering what Eric's bringing to the table because he's absolutely right. How do you unlock those? How do you give the skill sets and the pathways to people so that they can actually find their way through leadership? Like Eric was sharing in his story years ago, mine similarly as well, too. And I think I like to believe in that people are inherently good, right? Obviously, we have the one-offs that come, and there tend to be more and more lately in life. But if I can make a general statement about the world at large, as you're going through your 20s and 30s, you're desperate to grow, you're desperate to thrive, you're desperate to lead and to make the best quality life that you can for yourself, but you just don't have the experience or the wherewithal or the knowledge. And to what Eric's rightfully saying, where's the blueprint? Where are we supposed to be going? Where's the pathway that says, how am I supposed to be a leader? Because in organizations, typically the C-suite is going to harness that knowledge and they hold it. And we've seen so many leaders that are afraid to actually give back. And I, for the life of me, I will never understand that. I've always told my team, my job is to give every single thing that I know and I have of me to you. That's my job as a leader. I'm supposed to help you with the vision, help you with the creativity, but harness it through you. I don't know everything, but collectively we should be able to put this ship on the right pathway and set it for sail, right? And that's how we'll do that as a team. And I also measure myself. Every one of my right hands should be promoting upwards. I don't measure myself on how much money did I make or how many bonuses do I get, etc.
Mhm.
It should be on the people. And am I making a positive mark in this world for this company, for this organization, for our customers we serve? And I think that's where Eric and I are a brother from another mother, I think we both feel that passion and that leadership prose of how we should be making our mark in the world. That's not taught.
Mhm.
And I believe Eric, through his consultancy, is starting to teach that. And I am doing that as well, coming from a different perspective of how do I start to embrace you on the journey of change? Because if you are in your 20s and 30s, you're going to go through a lot of change. And guess what? It won't stop. Throughout the rest of your life, you're still going to experience it until you take your last breath. So stand by. It's just going to keep coming. But if you can learn how to manage the change that you experience and you can manage that to an advantage that works for you and for others, then all of a sudden we're not making assumptions. We're not succumbing to stress, worry, fear, and anxiety
Mhm.
and letting that lead our pathway forward. We're actually practicing a leadership skill of, managing change for ourselves and then choosing the right pathway of what Eric's saying of which kind of leader do I want to be?
Mhm.
There's a blend. It has to happen. And you won't see this taught in university and schools.
No,
Not yet.
no. Tara, can I share just a short story really quick?
Course. Yeah, please.
Grant, you and I are gonna have to spend a lot more time together, my friend. Every time you open your mouth, I feel freshly invigorated.
I didn't know I had that ability.
Oh, you do, my friend. You do. So, this is years ago. I was approached by a gentleman who is worth billions of dollars. had been wildly successful across a variety of different industries, building these significant businesses that if I said them out loud, we'd all be aware of the names. And I was shocked that he was connecting with me. I don't know what's going on here. I don't belong in this conversation. Why does he want to talk to me? What did I do wrong? I don't know. And someone had referred him to me. And so we sat down and I said, well, how can I help you? And he told me a story about building these businesses. And well, he also has children that he is desirous that they would eventually take over these large assets that he has spent decades building. And he said to me, Eric, I know how to do business. He said, my wife and I think we've done actually a really good job of raising our children. They're amazing human beings. He said, but I don't know how, that's the operative word. I don't know how to equip and prepare them as they move through their, 30s and 40s, to become the kind of people who can take over these significant assets.
Yeah.
Right. Because one thing to build something, you've earned the right to be at that position, but it's another thing to want to, like you're saying, Grant, to empower, to invest, to develop others.
Yeah.
Our journey, we kind of know it subconsciously because we kind of stumbled and fumbled our way through it, but to actually turn around and reinvest what we've learned. Here's what I discovered. And I think it's true of so many leaders. There are those grumpy old crotchety leaders that are just like, you know what, let them figure it out on their own. But there are so many who really want to reinvest what they've learned. But first of all, they don't really know what they've learned because it's all at a subconscious level. Number one. Number two, there's no practical pathway or how to reinvest what journey we've been on back into the next generation or the next iteration of leaders in our midst, whether it's our own kids or in our organization. And that grabbed my attention. It wasn't for lack of want to. Mm-hmm. It was for lack of how to. And I think, Grant, that's what people like you and I do is, I said to this leader, I said, listen, what I can do is provide for you a very clear pathway, a pathway for your children that they can be on that is going to unlock more and more of their potential. So they can be the quality of people and skilled to be able to take over a significant level of responsibility. I said, but I would love for you to consider participating in this journey, not outsourcing it to me, but participating in it, because what I hear in you is not that you don't want to, but you don't know how to. And I'd love an opportunity to equip you as well in how to partner with your kids to help them develop into the leaders that they need to be. And I think that goes back to this injustice. I think there are so many people, whether they are aspiring leaders or younger, newer leaders, or even seasoned veteran leaders who understand what we're saying. They're like, yes, I agree. That is the ideal. But because there's no clear how to for them, then it drives a level of insecurity that I think causes people to shrink back from that responsibility and opportunity, and to say, I'll either outsource this to the universities, which aren't doing a good job of this. We'll outsource this to a consultancy that will come in. But again, that's a very dangerous prospect, because when those consultants then leave, we don't actually know how to continue to perpetuate this new way of operating. And so what happens is they get discouraged. And I think our good news to the world is, let us show you how to engage personal change and transformation, how to create an internal operating system that can unlock more of yours and your team's potential. And so what I love, Grant, I think the reason we're so synergetic is because we're both, even though we understand the theoretical and the ideological and the academic side of this conversation, I think you and I are both how-to people.
Well, absolutely. And I'm sorry, I'm going to take this because
no, go for it.
You just described the founding principle behind my consultancy. And I have been challenged on this. People will often tell you, because I'm operating a new market segment in organizational change management. It's been here for 100 years. It's transactional at best. It's telling people what to do. You wonder why it fails. I've just given you the answer.
Yeah.
You're not touching the people, and they don't know how to manage change for themselves. I have been told so many times Grant, you need to take your consultancy and go inside the company, diagnose their change problem, get involved with their inner workings, stay with them for 6 months, etc. Wow, you'd just be so wealthy if you did that. And you know what? Too many people try to do that. Just like you said, what happens when the consultants leave? So my philosophy is, and I believe yours is too, Eric, and I love that your guest or that gentleman actually was courageous enough to come to you and say, I need to know how, right? Because that takes courage, number one, from a C-suite leader, let alone owner of his own company. But I believe that my responsibility, which aligns with my leadership or what I just shared with you, my consultancy, what we will do is we come in with a certification and we transfer all of the knowledge to you. It's fully accredited, ITAL, CPD, Oxford University backed and accredited. But once I've done it, you know what I know. Now take that and now add our technology to enable your entire employee population. And I believe that's different because what happens is then I do walk away. But I walk away knowing that you have everything that I know. You shouldn't need me to hang on for the rest of the year, right? And I think that's different. And I think you're so right with this. The world is hungry for leadership. How do we do it? There's so many fluff consultancies out there and trainings that are out there that have been packaged up as a one size fits all, but they're not talking about the foundations for the individual and how do we actually support that. To your point, they're not talking about the actual pathway of yes, but how. I can watch the 3-hour online class, but I still am going, yes, but how? And customer service isn't going to answer that, right? So I can't even get them to respond to the email. So that's where you and I are very different. And we go in and we poise the information and the knowledge into the institution itself so that they now add to their collective institutional knowledge, and then we enable them.
That is so good. And, right now we're living in the most accelerated pace for change in human history, arguably, right? We've got AI technology that's taking over business of all industries, and people are struggling. They're struggling to keep up with the constant.
And people are scared. They're scared to death of the AI. I hear it all the time. And they'll flat out tell you they don't have no shame. I'm scared of this.
People are scared. They're scared they're going to lose their jobs. They're scared they're going to become redundant, irrelevant.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of change going on, a lot of uncertainty as well. And what we're talking about is how to navigate these changes with clarity and confidence in the face of these uncertainties, because uncertainties are only going to increase in number. If you think this is it, I have news for you. In 2 years, it's going to look completely different. It really is. What do you guys think about that?
Eric?
I want to hear from Grant.
I know.
Well, it's not going to stop. And I'll give you a quote. The quote is not mine. It was a former chairman and CEO of Royal Caribbean Cruises. Brilliant man. And he said, the speed of change will never be as slow as it is today.
That's right. Ooh, that's so good. Oh, that's so good.
It's true. And as my mom would say, well, that's all I got for you. So now you have to figure that out on your own, right? But you know what? The thing is that we do have to figure it out on our own. I was doing a certification class for a police division here in London. And I had hardcore police officers, right? Veterans. You think that change is only for the people who like the fluffy stuff. Well, guess what? If you're a human being and you're breathing, you're going to have to deal with change. Yeah. So I had these hardcore police officers, 30 and 40 years. And one of them just said at the very beginning, Dr. Grant, I don't know why I'm here. And the supervisor said out loud, you're here because I told you to be here. And I looked at the supervisor and I went, well, that's probably not the right answer. And I thought that they were going to fire me at that moment. But I said, hang on with me for a second. I said, sir, what is your job? And he said, my job is to assess the new candidates, the new recruits. Very stern face, right? Very proud. And I just thought, is that the face that you give them? He went, what do you mean? I said, because right now your face is scaring me. So imagine a 20-something-year-old cadet who is learning and seeing that their entire future career pathway sits on whether they can get past you or not, or whether they can learn anything from you or not. And imagine sitting at their side, how many of them are afraid to ask you a question? And at the end of the class, he came up to me and he goes, you know what, Dr. Grant, nobody teaches us this.
Mm.
They don't teach us about change. And we're not supposed to talk about our feelings because nobody cares. And he goes, I get it now. We all have these feelings. And instead of making bad decisions and bad assumptions, maybe we should think it through. And he goes, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. So it doesn't matter who you are in this great world of ever increasing speed of change, whether you're the fireman, the policeman, the mechanic, the plumber, or if you're the pilot, or if you're the city commissioner or the politician, you will be experiencing change just like each and every one of us do. You have a choice. You can sit there and make assumptive decisions and panic about it and hope something sticks to the wall and call that leadership, or you can actually admit you might not have the answers and you can actually learn a brand new cognitive skill set of how you manage change for yourself so that you're making decisions based off of information, not emotions. And then you can learn from Eric and people like myself as well, too, what style of leadership and what pathway and how do we get there so that we actually create the most common good.
I love that.
That's where we need to be.
Yes, Eric. Oh my gosh.
I need to admit it.
Yes, people need to admit it. That's right. You can't change what you don't acknowledge.
Yeah. You can lie to others, but you cannot lie to yourself.
Ooh. Amen to that. Eric, what are your thoughts?
Well, Grant, I spent a lot of my younger years trying to do that, and you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Let me take I love what Grant's saying. I just want to riff on that. Let me offer just from a different angle on this same conversation. I think the word is out that the speed of change, the rate of change, the threat of change, I think most people are beginning to accept. So here's a fun little analogy that I like to use. And again, this is dating myself. I remember the days when my friend said, hey, can you come over to my house and hang out? And I would say, yes, I just got my driver's license. Can you give me directions? Okay, great. Where are you? Oh, I'm over here in this part of town. And then they would say, okay, I think I have an idea. So do you remember where the school is? Yeah. Where our school is. Yeah. Okay. So when you get to that corner, the one with the tall tree right there and the one with the house on the corner with the brick fence. Okay. There, you're going to take a right, not north, south, east, west, just take a right there. And then when you get to the porch where you see the big dog on the front porch, keep going about a half mile past that one.
2 more mailboxes down.
Yeah, 2 more mailboxes. Then you can take a left on this street. Okay, how do you spell that street? Well, some of us will remember the old Thomas Edison map books.
I've driven cross country with those things. Yes.
You know how maddening they are. You're trying to find the right page, or you go get the fold out maps from the gas station and you're navigating. Well, here's the challenge. What happens when the landscape changes? Those maps, there was a time when those maps, the rate of change was such that those maps worked for a while, but then they'd have to constantly update them, but never fast enough to keep up with the ever-changing landscape of our environment. And so what I think we're actually looking for, because the landscape is changing so quickly across every area of our life, the one thing that is predictable is constant change. And therefore, the maps, and I think this is where, Grant, when you were pointing at a lot of the kind of more the prevailing leadership philosophies rooted in transactional leadership or other things like that, those were roadmaps that at a time worked because change was slow enough that they stayed relevant. And I think now what people are needing in the midst of an ever-changing landscape is not a paper map. We need like our phones. We need a GPS system that allows us to very quickly, in the midst of any, circumstances of life, to identify, where am I currently? That's what your phone is doing at every given moment. It's constantly pinging, where am I right now? And so the practice of self-awareness and self-leadership, the ability to understand, who am I? Where am I at in this stage of my life? Not where do I wish I was in 10 years? Not where was I 10 years ago, but where am I at today? Who am I today? And then to identify, okay, in the midst of whatever I'm dealing with, where do I want to get to? What's the destination? What's the location that I'm trying to achieve in this moment? And then the beautiful thing is if, as you said, Grant, we have to be skilled. That's what my leadership operating system provides. I'm sure that's what Grant's system provides, right? The basic fundamental skills to be able to identify where are we, where do we want to be in a conversation, in a decision-making process, navigating a full-blown crisis, and then to be able to navigate from point A to point B with the measure of flexibility, adaptability that is requisite because the landscape is constantly changing. And so I think if we're not skilled in those ways, then what happens is we default to the old paper maps and we find that they're not helping us get to where we want to be. And so what do people do? In their discouragement, in our frustration, we eventually decide, I guess this is all I've got. I guess this is the marriage or the family or the financial situation or the physical health condition or my relationship with my aging parents or my view of politics or my view of people that are different. I guess it's just going to stay what it is because I am so terrified of trying to navigate all the complexities and ever-changing aspects of these landscapes that it's easier to hunker down, build my little safe house.
Yeah.
And decide the world is too scary to navigate. I think the people, the leaders, the companies, the nations that will be most successful in the future are the ones who will learn this skill set so that they can navigate that change.
I agree. Yeah.
That is so good. I mean, the weather changes, our taste changes, our relationships change. Things change in life. I think change happens, but growth is optional. Grant, what do you think about what Eric said?
Well, there's a part where I'm reflecting back on what he said a while ago. There's a time when the leadership styles worked, transactional leadership worked for so long, and he's absolutely right. But here's the thing. I believe the reason that it worked for so long is because people didn't have information to challenge it.
Yes.
And now what you see today and what Eric is driving, this is the way I digest it and understand it, is you have the younger generation who are so entrenched in their phones and ChatGPT right here on my phone, mine too. This old timer, I'm doing it as well, but I'm embracing it. I'm using my own model, right? The thing is that they can challenge you right to your face in real time. So if you don't change, you're just the dinosaur that's going to be extinct real fast.
Yeah.
So you don't have a choice because the information is so readily available and so fast that you're being judged every second, every minute, and every action of what you do. So to where there needs to be the element which is inside an inherent trait of transformational leadership is vulnerability. Vulnerability and honesty, and being vulnerable and demonstrating that. You don't have to give up the leadership pros, but you do have to show that you're a human being. People want and expect to see that today because then they see that you're relatable and you're approachable and they can actually learn something from you. So if you're choosing and making a conscious choice to stay in transactional leadership, your days are really numbered, very much so.
Oh my gosh. What you just said resonates so much. We're talking about this age of AI and change is just rapidly increasing. And, because change is rapidly increasing, we look at things like social media. Sometimes it's really even hard to tell right now, like what's real and what's not. What's AI and what's not. And, what you're talking about is, vulnerability. And I really believe that because vulnerability, authenticity, that can't be duplicated.
No. And people will see right through it. They'll see through it very quickly. They see right through it. So, you actually owe yourself if you want to continue, whether you're leading business or whatever it is you do, governments or whoever you are, or even just for your own family.
Yeah.
Start to learn how to evolve. The biggest resistance I get in this field of change management is from certified change management practitioners.
Really?
Think about this for a moment. And if you're one out there, I'm not trying to offend you. I'm just saying, if change changes, shouldn't change management change as well? But it's been going the same for 100 years. We need to evolve, people. And we need to look at and not be offended to learn something new. There's not a problem that organizational change management is failing. It's just that it needs to evolve because the world is evolving. Technology is evolving. Advancements are evolving. The societal way we live is evolving. Therefore, our tools in how to manage change must also evolve.
Mhm.
And finally, what I'm trying to say is we should start including the people.
Oh,
A no-brainer.
yes. Oh my gosh. So resonating. Eric, what do you think about what he said?
Yes, 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 and
Yes.
yes.
More yes, right?
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
If
yeah.
you
I mean,
say no, Eric, she might stop the show.
That's right.
there's this is such
So
and
good.
again, this is again why I think Grat and I have so much synergy is we've both been in the trenches with leaders and organizations where they're genuinely stuck.
Yeah.
And whether it's the you know the methodologies of old worked or didn't work, or whether we had enough information or not, or so I think all of that can be true. What we do know is that old adage, what got us here won't get us there.
Yeah.
And I love when Grant said, like, we have to be okay to evolve in our thinking. We have to be okay to change. We have to be okay to be a little bit offended at times, right? When somebody brings an idea that feels either counterintuitive or it feels threatening to the way that I've always done things. I mean, that might be the most popular phrase I've ever heard working with any organization is the people on the inside when you say, hey, we're going to try it this way, but we've always done it this way. And there are the people who use that phrase to protect what they've done before. There are people who use that out of fear of change. And then there are people who use that phrase out of the fear that their leaders won't really subscribe to any change. And I think
and that paralyzes business and progress.
100%. And that's where I think, and Grant, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. It's why what I tell people, as I said, I say we built a leadership operating system and we've got these incredible tools and we have this incredible coaching methodology and it works and it's powerful. And I can say all that till I'm blue in the face.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, because we're dealing with these leaders who are human beings.
Yeah.
I think Grant would agree with this. It's our willingness. Like we have to embody and practice the very same things that we're asking them to practice. And therefore, when I'm working with potential clients, or even especially in the first weeks and months of working with a client, I'm practicing a lot of my own vulnerability and transparency and honesty. I'm sharing a lot out of the overflow of my journey, my frustrations and my hangups and the terrible habits that kept me stuck. And I'm sharing of my journey through breakthrough. I'm talking about the different areas of my life and the transformative experience for myself in different areas from caterpillar to butterfly. That's an ongoing process. So it's this idea of building trust with these individuals requires that we model for these leaders to give them enough courage, because that's what they're really looking for. I think deep down inside, whenever I get these C-suite leaders or mid-level leaders behind closed doors by themselves, what they'll tell me is, Eric, I know we need this.
Yeah.
But it's scary. I know we need this, but what if it doesn't work? I know we need this, but we've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on other consultants and coaching firms to come in and we didn't move the needle at all.
Yeah.
It is genuinely, and I want the listeners to hear this, because I don't care what your role or position or financial status is. Change is scary. And change is even more scary when you're not the one initiating the change, but you're told we are going to change by somebody else.
Yeah.
And so the work of building the connection of trust with these folks, I think is what begins to give them the subtle courage to say, I'll just take one step. That's what we say.
Yeah.
Just take one step. And if it doesn't work for you, then let's back out, but just take one step. And if that feels okay, let's take another step. And I think that way of engaging the conversation on change is critical. Otherwise, we become the next set of leaders beating down the door and saying, you need to change. Why aren't you changing? And you need this system and you need this. And people just feel again beat down by the next idea.
Yeah.
Mm.
And you're so right. And I will throw this out as well too. Eric's absolutely right. We have to practice what we preach. So, and I do this every day. There was an old commercial when we were kids. It was the Grecian hair formula for men. You had the the leader on there. He said, "I'm not just the owner. I'm a client myself," and that stuck with me for years. You have to practice what you preach. And within personal change management, you know, you're not going to instantly learn scared so what and instantly be like, okay, I'm never going to be afraid of change again. It's just not real. And I'm not either. I created the model. I've created the methodology and taught it to thousands of people around the world. And it works. But I'm still going to live psychologically through my own scenarios of change. And I'll give you a perfect example. This is in my first book, Transforming Sales Management, Leading Salespeople Through Change. During the pandemic, we shut down our entire Europe operations and let hundreds of people go. And my whole focus was teaching them scared so what so they could make their own plan of how they were going to get through it. Didn't realize at the very last minute that, oh, wait, as we close the office, I have to pack up my house and I have to move from Spain to Miami. I'm going back to America. And didn't even think about it till I got on the plane. I had taken care of everybody else. And as the plane takes off, all of a sudden, my crisis set in. And I shouted at the flight attendant, "Oh, bleep, we're flying into a trap." And that bleep was an explicative, but it hit me. It absolutely hit me. We're flying into a trap. And those are words you don't say to a flight attendant as they're taking off. But I did. And she's like, she goes, "What's wrong, sir?" And I said, "As soon as we land, I'm going to be fired." It hit me then. Take care of everybody else as the leader.
Wow.
And then forget to take care of yourself. And my partner looked at me and he went, "You created the model. Scared, so what? Let's use it." So I had a 9-hour captive flight to Miami. And I used scared to feel how I felt about the change. And so what to build my own plan. And sure enough, when we landed, my brand new boss, whom I'd never known before, said, "I'm sorry, we're giving you your last check. Here you go." And I said, "How much time do you have?" He said, "A few moments." And I said, "You can't afford to fire me. I have a scared so what plan." And he went, "What?" And I told him, I said, You've never had an opportunity to reset a global sales team, to realign their structures, to realign their pay, to realign their job descriptions, and to teach them all the same things. Now's the perfect time, and I know how to do all of that." He said, "If you can do this, we'll guarantee your job." So scared so what allows you to then take back control over potentially very negative situations of change, but you got to learn how to think it through. And I too, I live and use this model all the time. So it's not a silver bullet that says you're magically going to be able to bypass change for the rest of your life. It's a process that, as Eric says, we have to learn and be willing to learn and vulnerable to learn. And when we do that, then we have a tool that we can use to transition us through the rest of our lives.
Oh, amen. So love that story.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I'm gonna put you on a hot seat. Drum roll. People are listening to this episode right now and they're saying, "This is great, guys, but I'm scared." Maybe they've lost their job. Maybe they're in a transition in a relationship. Maybe they're in a position of uncertainty and they're just not sure what their next move is. One piece of advice you would give to somebody right now that they can take and transform their lives today. Eric, what would you say to one person today?
Yeah. Well, in the vein of what Grant just said, there is no silver bullet. So I'm reticent to respond to this question too quickly.
Go ahead.
I would say this to any of our listeners. The most important thing I think for people to hear today is, if you resonate with anything that we're talking about, you're not alone.
Oh, yeah.
You are not alone.
Not
That's the
alone.
greatest lie that we believe as human beings, is that we're alone in this. I'm the only one. Nobody else understands this. Nobody can appreciate at what I'm going through. And I let people know, first things first, you are not alone. You are actually in great company, because if you are feeling these emotions, it means, number one, that you're alive. Number two, that you are up against something that is an indicator that change is around the corner, that your breakthrough is around the corner. It's the people that are naive or unfeeling or kind of blind to these conversations that are the ones that scare me the most. But if our listeners are feeling any like resonance and sense of like, oh my gosh, I really want more of what they're talking about, that's the best position to be in, because that is the battle before the breakthrough. And then, of course, the easy one is, why don't you just contact Dr. Grant or myself, and we would love to process with you whatever next steps are best for you.
I love that. All right. I'm going to ask you a slightly different spin, Grant.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to really experience transformation, they're tired of just going from one day to the next, and it feels like kind of a record player.
Yeah.
They want to go to that butterfly stage. What would you tell somebody?
I would tell you, look within and start to understand what's happening right in front of your face. If you want to be the change, then be it today. But you need to learn how to manage it for yourself. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for somebody to give you the green light to go forward. Don't wait for somebody to tell you that they feel that you can do better or that you're going to be fine. You have to find the answer for yourself. And that means that you're going to need to learn to embrace change for yourself. And so how do you manage that? And I'll give you a freebie. If you have an iPhone or an Android phone and you go to your app store and you type in Scared So What, you can download our first generation app for free. There you go. Eric's doing it.
Eric's doing it right now. I've already got it on my phone, guys.
And when I say that it's free, I mean it's absolutely free. There's no ads, there's no spams, nobody's going to email you, nothing's going to happen. I made that for you, for individuals and for education, so that the entire world can start learning how to manage change for themselves. So go take that. So I've just given you the opportunity to learn it. It's absolutely free. The thing is will you do it?
Will you do it? Will you put in the action? Will you take that first step? And we always ask, but how? Well, this is how. This is step one. This is the first brick in the road to get you to that transformation, to get you to embracing change as a positive, not a negative, right? And we all need that first brick in the road. This is it. Guys, Grant, Eric, wow, mind blown, truly. Thank you so much for joining me today on this episode of Grasp Confidence. Your leadership acumen, your expertise is bar none. And that's why I had you on this show, because our listeners are looking to elevate their lives, not just change temporarily, but transform into the person they are meant to be. We will catch you on the next episode, everyone. Take care.